Welcome to our deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at something that's pretty important these days.
Absolutely.
Mental health awareness.
It is a big one.
Yeah, a lot of people I think are, needing to get up to speed on it pretty quickly, and we've pulled together some really interesting sources to help us kind of unpack this.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is going to be a really good deep dive for anyone who's just starting out or who wants to get a baseline understanding of the topic.
Absolutely. So we've got a collection of inspirational quotes that we're going to be looking at from Mental Health Match.
Great source.
And then we've got a guide from Charity Digital, and we've also got a blog post all about Mental Health Awareness Month from Sam HSA.
Fantastic.
But we're not just going for definitions here. We're going to be looking at, why does this actually matter to you, the listener?
That's right. We're going to get to those surprising insights and those practical takeaways that you can actually use.
Absolutely, because even if you think you've got a handle on this topic, I guarantee there's going to be some real gems that we unearth along the way.
There always is.
Okay, so let's unpack this starting with the foundation.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about when we say mental health?
Yeah.
Because it's such a common term these days, but I feel like it goes way beyond just, feeling happy or sad. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And Charity Digital defines it as about our emotional, psychological, and social well-being.
Okay.
And I think it's really interesting they include social in there.
Yeah.
Because it means it's not just about how we feel inside, but how we act and interact with the world around us.
Yeah, how we actually show up in our lives, right?
Exactly.
And that makes me think about you, the listener.
Yes.
How does your mental health impact your work, your relationships? The way you handle decisions every day. It's all connected somehow, isn't it?
It really is. And to give you an idea of the scope of what we're dealing with,
Yeah.
the DSM-5, which is like the official handbook for diagnosing mental disorders,
Okay.
lists almost 300 different disorders.
300.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into all of those.
No.
But it just shows the scope of what we're talking about.
Wow, that's a lot, almost 300. But with so many potential issues, you kind of have to wonder, what actually causes mental illness in the first place?
Right.
It can't be a simple answer.
It's not at all. And Charity Digital brings up the age-old debate of nature versus nurture.
Okay.
So is it our genes that make us predisposed to certain conditions?
Right.
Or is it the environment that we grow up in, our experiences, or a combination of both?
It's like, are we born with certain tendencies, or are we shaped by, the things that we encounter in our lives?
Exactly.
It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
And scientists are still trying to fully understand that.
Right.
But what Charity Digital highlights is that it's most likely a mix of both.
Okay.
Both our genes and our environment play a role.
So there's hope in that, though, right?
Yep.
That we have some control, even if we're dealing with certain genetic factors.
Absolutely. And that's where awareness comes in.
Yeah.
Because the more we understand about how these things interact, the more we can make choices to support our mental health.
So awareness is more than just knowing that mental health exists.
Yes.
It's about understanding these complex factors and how they actually play out in our own lives.
Exactly. And this leads to something that Mental Health Match says in their introduction to their collection of quotes.
Okay.
They say that everyone has their own struggles,
Okay.
but they also have your own insights to offer.
I love that.
And I think it's a really nice way of highlighting how we all have something to learn from each other, even in our struggles.
Yeah, and that actually ties into something that Charity Digital says as well, which is that awareness helps us not just to preserve our well-being, but also to actually address problems when they arise.
Absolutely. It's like having a toolkit for good mental health.
Yeah, like being prepared, right?
Yeah.
And you know what this reminds me of actually is I remember this one time I was feeling really overwhelmed with work and I ended up having a panic attack.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even realize what was happening at first, but thankfully a colleague recognized the signs and helped me through it. And that's the power of awareness, isn't it? Not just for ourselves, but for the people around us.
It really is. And according to Charity Digital, 1 in 6 people in England face mental health issues weekly.
Wow.
So this isn't some far-off problem.
Yeah.
It's happening right now to people we know.
All around us. Yeah, it really hits home when you think about it like that.
It does.
But amidst all of this, there's a glimmer of hope. And Mental Health Match actually emphasizes the importance of sharing experiences as a way to get help.
That's right.
A lot of the quotes that they have included are from people who've been incredibly open about their own struggles.
Yeah, and it goes back to that idea that we all have something to learn from each other.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, I've been there. You're not alone in this.
Exactly.
That vulnerability can be so powerful.
It is.
And it goes back to that shared humanity that we were talking about.
Absolutely.
When we're open about our struggles, we break down stigma and we create a space for other people to feel safe doing the same.
Right.
Okay, so speaking of stigma,
That's another huge piece of the puzzle that we need to talk about.
big one.
It's something that prevents so many people from getting the help that they need.
Absolutely. And Charity Digital defines it really clearly as holding negative views about someone based on a particular trait or characteristic.
Okay.
So in the context of mental health,
Mhm.
this could be labeling someone as dangerous or incapable simply because they have a mental illness.
And that kind of thinking can be so damaging for the individual, but also for society as a whole, right?
Totally.
There's this quote from Mental Health Match that I actually wrote down because it really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It says, the humanity we all share is more important than the mental illnesses we may not.
That's powerful.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is.
It's this reminder that we're all human beings first.
Yeah.
And our differences, including those related to mental health, they don't diminish our shared worth.
I love that.
Okay, but let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
Cherry Digital goes on to list some of the very real consequences of stigma.
For example, they point out that it makes people reluctant to seek help,
Yeah.
which can have a huge impact on their well-being and their quality of life. And I know our listeners, you value efficiency,
Yes.
and stigma creates a massive inefficiency in our healthcare system.
Absolutely.
It does, and beyond that, it can lead to low self-esteem,
Right.
which affects everything from job performance to personal relationships. And for those of you listening who are driven by growth and learning the belief that mental illness sets limitations is like a major roadblock.
Yeah, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It can, and you start to think, oh, well, this is just the way it is, and I can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
But before we get too down in the dumps,
Yeah.
let's bring in some good news. Both Charity Digital and the Sam HSA blog actually highlight the fact that stigma is decreasing,
It is.
albeit slowly.
Surely.
But the perceptions are shifting towards greater understanding and acceptance,
They are.
and that is a huge step in the right direction.
I think so, too.
It gives me hope that we're moving towards a future where people feel more comfortable talking about mental health and seeking help without shame.
I agree.
Yeah. And that actually perfectly segues into something that Sam HSA focuses on, this idea that it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
Such a simple message, but so profound. What do you think?
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It just validates the fact that we all go through tough times,
Yeah,
and that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
it is.
It takes the pressure off of pretending everything is fine all the time.
Yeah, we don't have to put on that brave face all the time. And this ties into what Charity Digital says as well about open conversations being key to breaking down stigma and fostering a supportive environment.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you ever had an experience where having an open conversation about mental health made a difference in your life?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started therapy, I was really nervous to tell people,
Oh, sure.
my friends and family.
Yeah.
But when I finally did open up, I was met with so much love and support. It was amazing.
That's beautiful. It just shows you the power of being vulnerable, right?
It really does.
And to make those conversations even more effective, Sam HS gives some great examples of what they call person-first language.
Okay.
So instead of saying, John is schizophrenic, you would say, John has schizophrenia.
Right.
It's a subtle shift, but it makes a big difference. It puts the focus on the person, not the diagnosis.
It does.
And speaking of practical applications, Charity Digital points out that organizations actually benefit from promoting mental health awareness.
Oh, absolutely.
They talk about increased productivity,
Yeah.
better talent retention,
Yep.
even lower absenteeism. It makes sense. If people feel supported and valued, they're going to be more engaged at work.
Absolutely. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's not just the right thing to do ethically. It's good for business, too.
It is.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the role of charities in all of this.
Okay.
Charities are so crucial, right? Especially in a world where access to mental health care can be really limited.
It can.
They often fill the gaps where government support falls short, and they provide these vital services and advocate for change.
They do, and it's needed because Charity Digital highlights the fact that a staggering number of people
Yeah.
with mental health issues in the UK receive little to no treatment.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy to think about how many people are out there struggling in silence.
It is, and that's where these organizations come in.
Yeah.
They provide a lifeline for so many people.
They do. It's amazing the work they do, often with limited resources and funding.
Absolutely.
But it's not just charities that focus specifically on mental health. Every organization, every business, every community group can play a part.
I agree.
It's about creating a culture where it's okay to talk about these things, to ask for help, to support each other.
Yeah, I love that idea.
And speaking of support, Charity Digital actually provides a fantastic list of mental health charities doing amazing work in the UK.
Oh, great.
We'll make sure to include links to those in our show notes so you can check them out and see how you can get involved.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But I love how they empower the listener to take action,
You too?
to not just be aware, but to actually do something.
Yes.
And they also emphasize the importance of educating ourselves about mental health.
Yeah.
They even provide a list of recommended books
Oh, well.
covering a wide range of topics.
Fantastic.
But I'm guessing these aren't dense medical textbooks. They're written in a way that's engaging and accessible.
For the average person, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, here's your starter kit. Go forth and learn.
Exactly.
And I bet the internet is a treasure trove of information as well.
Oh, yeah.
There are tons of resources available through the NHS Mental Health UK Mine, all of these amazing organizations.
There's so many websites now that are just a goldmine.
Yeah, and it's so great that that information is out there and it's accessible, because I think that's a huge part of breaking down stigma and promoting understanding.
Yeah.
The more we talk about mental health,
Yeah.
the more we normalize it,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes for people to seek help without feeling ashamed.
I agree.
And all of this is so much more effective when we remember to use that person-first language like Sam HS suggests.
Yeah.
It's such a simple but powerful way to shift the conversation and focus on the individual, not the diagnosis.
It is.
Yeah, and speaking of our human experience,
Yes.
we can't ignore the connection between mental and physical health.
Absolutely.
And Sam HS actually really emphasizes this.
Yes, they do.
They point out that taking care of our mental health isn't just about feeling good emotionally.
Right.
It actually has a direct impact on our physical well-being, too.
It does.
Oh, that's so interesting. So we're not just talking about, feeling happy or sad.
Yeah.
It actually impacts our physical bodies as well.
Think about it, like when you're stressed or anxious, how does that affect your sleep, your appetite, your energy levels?
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I can definitely feel the impact of stress on my body. Like my muscles get all tense. I have trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
And my stomach's always in knots.
Right, and it can go even deeper than that. Chronic stress can actually weaken your immune system,
Oh, wow.
making you more susceptible to illness.
So when we talk about self-care, we're not just talking about, bubble baths and face masks.
Although those can be nice too.
Of course, they have their place, but you're right. It's about making choices that support our overall well-being.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that Sam HSSO recommends?
Well, they talk about the importance of healthy diet, getting enough sleep, exercising regularly,
Okay.
and also engaging in activities that bring you joy, whatever those might be.
I love that, finding those things that light you up and make you feel alive.
Absolutely.
It could be anything from spending time in nature to listening to music to connecting with loved ones.
Right, and finding healthy ways to manage stress is really important as well.
Yeah.
So things like practicing gratitude, volunteering, and even engaging in those random acts of kindness.
Oh, those are such great suggestions. And they highlight the fact that self-care doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming.
No.
Even small, everyday actions can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to that message from Sam HSS.
Yes. It's okay to not be okay.
It is.
We all have our ups and downs, and it's so crucial to have a support system in place when those tough times hit.
Right, because that's when you really need to know that you're not alone.
Yeah, and that there are people you can rely on. So who are those people who makes up our support system?
It could be friends, family, a therapist, a support group, even an online community.
Okay.
It's about having people that you can turn to when you need to talk or vent or just feel connected.
Yeah, it's about knowing you're not alone
Mm-hmm.
and that there are people who care about you and want to see you thrive. And I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone's mental health journey is unique.
It is.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to well-being.
Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
So it's about being open to exploring different options and finding what feels right for you.
Yeah, being curious and compassionate with yourself and recognizing that this is a journey, not a destination.
And as we continue this journey together, I'm excited to delve deeper into some specific ways we can support both ourselves and others.
Me too. Welcome back. We were just talking about how important it is to have support when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking about organizations and the role they play in creating those supportive environments.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's one thing to talk about awareness and self-care,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to actually create structures that support mental well-being.
Exactly.
Where do we even begin with that?
Well, Charity Digital highlights having clear policies that prioritize mental well-being
Okay.
right alongside physical health. So I'm curious, thinking about your own workplace listener,
Mm-hmm.
do you see that emphasis on mental health
Yeah.
reflected in the policies and practices?
That's a really great question for all of you listening to ponder, because even if the policies exist, it's about whether people feel comfortable using them, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to feel like they have to hide their struggles
Right.
or pretend everything's fine when it's not.
Exactly. And leadership plays a huge role in setting that tone.
Yeah.
And Charity Digital cites research from BUPA that showed that a significant percentage of high-level execs worry that being open about their mental health
Okay.
will damage their reputation.
Oh, wow. That's really disheartening.
It is.
Because it just reinforces that idea that mental health issues are something to be ashamed of, something to hide.
It does, and it perpetuates that cycle of silence and stigma.
Yeah, but there must be leaders out there who are challenging that narrative.
Yeah.
People who are willing to be open about their own experiences and create a more supportive culture.
There are absolutely, and thankfully we are seeing more and more leaders step up and speak out
That's great.
about mental health.
Yeah.
And they recognize that by doing that, being vulnerable, sharing their own stories,
Yeah.
they can create that ripple effect, encouraging others to do the same.
Yeah, it's like they're paving the way for a more open and compassionate workplace
Yes.
where it's okay to not be okay.
Exactly.
It makes me think about those inspiring quotes from Mental Health Match.
So many of them emphasize the importance of sharing your story
Right.
and connecting with others who understand.
Absolutely.
It's about finding that sense of community and belonging.
It is, and that sense of belonging is so important for our well-being.
Yeah.
It helps us feel seen, heard, and valued,
Yeah.
which is essential.
Right. So it's not just about having policies on paper.
Oh.
It's about creating a culture where people feel safe and supported to be their authentic selves.
Absolutely. And studies have actually shown that companies that prioritize employee well-being
Okay.
see gains in productivity and talent retention.
So it's not just the ethically right thing to do.
Right.
It's good for business too.
It is.
Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the role of charities
Okay.
in this whole mental health landscape.
Yeah. Charities are absolutely crucial,
Yeah.
especially in a world where access to mental health care can be limited.
It can be very limited.
They often fill the gaps where government support falls short.
Providing those vital services and advocating for change.
And Charity Digital actually highlights the fact that a staggering number of people
Yes.
with mental health issues in the UK receive little to no treatment.
It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy to think about how many people are out there struggling in silence.
It is, and that's where these organizations step in.
Yeah,
They provide a lifeline for so many.
they do. And it's amazing the work that they do often with limited resources and funding.
Absolutely.
But it's not just charities that focus specifically on mental health. Every organization, every business, every community group can play a part
I agree.
in raising awareness and creating a more supportive environment.
It's about embedding mental well-being into the fabric of our society.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about creating a culture where it's okay to talk about mental health,
Right.
to ask for help, to support each other through those difficult times.
And speaking of support,
Yes.
Charity Digital provides a great list of mental health charities that are doing amazing work in the UK.
Oh,
And we'll be sure to include those links in our show notes
perfect.
so you can check them out and see how to get involved.
I love how they empower the listener to take action.
Me too.
Like you said, knowledge is power, but action is where real change happens.
It is.
And they also emphasize the importance of educating ourselves about mental health.
Yes.
They even give a list of recommended books
Oh, wow.
covering a wide range of topics.
That's great.
And I'm guessing these aren't, like dense medical textbooks.
No.
They're written in a way that's engaging and accessible for the average person.
For the average person, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, here's your starter kit. Go forth and learn.
Exactly.
And I bet the internet is a treasure trove of information as well.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the NHS, Mental Health UK, Mind, all of these amazing organizations.
There are so many websites that are just a gold mine of information.
It's incredible how accessible that information has become.
It is.
And I think that's a huge part of breaking down stigma and promoting understanding. The more we talk about mental health, the more we normalize it, the easier it becomes for people to seek help without feeling ashamed.
I completely agree. And all of this is so much more effective when we remember to use person-first language, like SAM-HSA suggests.
Yeah.
It's a simple but powerful way to shift the conversation
It is.
and focus on the individual, not the diagnosis.
Exactly. We're all human beings first, and our mental health is just one aspect of who we are.
Right. And speaking of our human experience,
Yes.
we can't ignore the connection between our mental and physical health.
Absolutely.
And SAM-HSA really emphasizes this,
You do.
pointing out that taking care of our mental health isn't just about feeling good emotionally.
Okay.
It actually has a direct impact on our physical well-being, too.
Oh, that's so interesting. So we're not just talking about feeling happy or sad.
Right.
It actually impacts our physical bodies as well.
Think about it. When you're stressed or anxious,
Yeah.
how does that affect your sleep, your appetite,
Yeah.
your energy level?
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I can definitely feel the impact of stress in my body.
Yeah.
Like my muscles get all tense. I have trouble sleeping. My stomach is always in knots.
Right. And it goes even deeper than that. Chronic stress can actually weaken your immune system,
Wow.
making you more susceptible to illness.
So when we talk about self-care, we're not just talking about bubble baths and face masks.
Although those can be nice, too.
Of course they have their place.
All right.
But you're right. It's about making choices that support our overall well-being.
Exactly.
So what are some of the things that SAM-HSA recommends?
Well, they talk about the importance of a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, exercising regularly,
Okay.
and also engaging in activities that bring you joy, whatever those might be.
I love that. Finding those things that light you up and make you feel alive.
Absolutely.
Could be anything from spending time in nature to listening to music to connecting with loved ones.
Right. And finding healthy ways to manage stress is really important as well.
Yeah.
So things like practicing gratitude volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
even engaging in random acts of kindness.
Those are great suggestions, and they highlight the fact that self-care doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming.
No, it doesn't.
Even small everyday actions can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to that message from SAM-HSA.
Yeah,
It's okay to not be okay.
it is.
We all have our ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to have a support system in place
Yeah.
when those tough times hit.
Because those are the times when having people you can rely on is so important.
It is.
But who are those people? Who makes up our support system?
It could be friends,
Mhm.
family, a therapist, a support group, even an online community.
Okay.
It's about having people that you can turn to when you need to talk or vent or just feel connected.
Yeah, it's about knowing you're not alone and that there are people who care about you and want to see you thrive. And I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone's mental health journey is unique.
It is.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to well-being.
I couldn't agree more. What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
So it's about being open to exploring different options and finding what feels right for you.
Yeah. Being curious and compassionate with yourself and recognizing that this is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
And as we continue this journey together, I'm excited to delve deeper into some specific ways we can support both ourselves and others. Wow, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into mental health awareness,
Yeah.
I'm struck by how much ground we've covered from, defining mental health
Right.
to exploring the impact of stigma to talking about self-care. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
It's true. There's always more to learn when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
But what I find really encouraging is that all three of our sources,
Yeah.
despite their different formats, they all kind of point towards the same thing,
Okay.
the power of individual action.
It's like they're saying, all right, you've got the information now. What are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
It's challenging us to be more than just passive recipients of knowledge. Yeah,
But to actually take what we've learned and apply it to our lives.
absolutely. And take those inspirational quotes from Mental Health Match, for example.
Yeah.
They're not just feel-good words. They're packed with wisdom
Right.
from people who've actually faced real challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, they're not just talking the talk. They've walked the walk.
Exactly. And they show us that, resilience and recovery and finding your own path are possible,
Right.
even when things feel tough.
And it's not about comparing struggles
No.
or saying, well, my problems are worse than yours. It's about recognizing that shared humanity, that feeling of, I'm not alone in this.
Exactly.
And that in itself, I think, can be so empowering.
It can be.
And then you've got Charity Digital laying out the landscape, defining terms, highlighting the impact of stigma, but also showcasing the progress being made.
Yes.
It's like they're giving you a toolkit
Yeah, a roadmap.
to not just understand the issue, but
Right.
to actually become an advocate for change.
I love Right. It's like, okay, here's the problem, and here are some concrete ways that you can be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
So it's not about feeling overwhelmed, but about focusing on what you can control, what actions you can take to make a difference.
Exactly. And I think that's where SAMHA's message for Mental Health Awareness Month really fits in, that it's okay to not be okay.
Yes,
It's so simple, but it's so profound.
it is.
It just gives you permission to acknowledge your struggles
Yeah.
and reach out for help without shame.
It's like a breath of fresh air. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to have it all together all the time.
You don't.
And self-care isn't selfish. It's actually essential
It is.
for being able to show up for yourself and others.
Absolutely. Self-care is about building resilience, fostering those healthy coping mechanisms, and creating that foundation of well-being.
Yeah, it's an investment
It is.
in your mental and emotional health.
Exactly.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before helping others.
Right. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And I think all of these sources encourage us to move beyond awareness and into action.
Yes.
It's not just about knowing about mental health. It's about becoming active participants in our own well-being and the well-being of those around us.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this question.
Okay.
What is the one thing that resonated with you the most? Was it a nugget of wisdom, a practical tip, an inspiring quote,
Yeah.
or maybe even a personal story that someone shared?
And more importantly, what's one small action you can take today or tomorrow or next week to put that knowledge into practice?
Yeah.
Maybe it's reaching out to a friend, practicing mindfulness,
Right.
or being more intentional about your self-care.
Remember, change starts with each of us, even a seemingly insignificant act of kindness, a moment of self-care. A conversation started with vulnerability and compassion can have a ripple effect far beyond what we can imagine.
I agree. We all have the power to create a more supportive and understanding world one step at a time.
So go out there, be the change you want to see, and let's create a world where mental well-being is not just a goal, but a lived reality for all.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into mental health awareness.
Right.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.